All right, we're back at it.
We're back at it. Yeah. Surprisingly, within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's going to be the plan right now.
Yeah.
Once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Sounds good.
For right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. Just looking at everything else that's going on as far as the feedback from everybody and the amount of time it takes. Well, there's so many podcasts out there. I mean, people want to listen.
Yeah.
But the issue is there's so many things that are constantly piling up. I mean, I don't even know. Do you have like a list of what you like to listen to?
Yeah. I mean, inside of, the Apple or Spotify or whatever, it's just queued up for the next time I'm in there, what are
some of your go-tos besides those, of course?
So what's funny is really recently the podcasts have been on the back burner because I've been listening to a ton of audiobooks.
Okay. Yeah.
So really just autobiographies. And actually right now I'm on Hickson's Breathe book.
Okay.
I'm listening to an audiobook of that.
Yeah.
Because I've actually surprisingly never read it. So I was going through and buying, I think I bought like 8 or 9 audiobooks and I was like, Breathe's on there. Might as well use that.
So how far are you through it right now?
I think like 2 chapters. Like I just started it.
Oh, so you haven't gotten to the family.
So I'm at the part where they're talking about the beginning of what is the guy's name that was like in World War II? What is the guy's name?
I can't think of him talking about anything.
Because he was like higher up in the rankings, and was it?
As far as like this book. Judo or
no, like military.
Oh, military. Are you talking about? Did he go into the opening of Japan with Matthew Perry? He doesn't talk about that, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. I'm not that far into it.
No. I don't think he talks about that.
I got the forward from Jocko.
Okay.
I did that, and then I'm just like right into it.
Okay.
So, and I can't remember the guy's name to save my life. That's the only bad thing about this podcast is that when I start thinking about things, I lose names every single time.
All the time.
Yeah. And you were smart. You brought the piece of paper today. I didn't
only for a couple things. Just for a couple things.
Yeah.
But yeah, Breathe. Why don't we talk about it when you
yeah, that was not my intent to talk about Breathe today.
No. It kind of leads into some of the other things that we were going to talk about this weekend. I don't know. Was it UFC 2 million?
288 maybe? I don't know. Because there was a fight night too that just happened as well.
Right.
So,
but I mean, I really wanted to see it just because I wanted to see Kron.
Right.
Like a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, wanted to see him, and he fought a guy named Charles Jourdain, who at the time Kron was like 5-1, Charles was 13-6, and Charles Jourdain is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, but without the the accolades that Kron has.
Right. Yeah.
Being an ADCC champion. But did you realize it was 4 years?
I didn't realize that until I heard that Kron was even on the card.
Right? I didn't double check that.
Yeah, because I mean it's pre-COVID, right?
Because his last fight was against Cub Swanson.
Yeah. So his last fight was 2020. Is that what that was?
That's crazy.
So I guess it's not really a full 4 years, right?
Yeah, but still a lot of time.
It's a ton of time, for sure.
With a lot of changes, relocating to Montana.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of people are disappointed in the outcome with that.
The butt scooting.
Well, it just looked like to me, Kron just tried to use old school jiu-jitsu MMA approach. And I could be totally wrong about that. That's what it appeared to me.
Sure.
A lot of clinching, trying to close the distance, pulling guard. But Jourdain had a very smart approach to that. When he was in the guard, he just played a tremendous amount of offense without trying to score.
Right. Yeah. Just trying to neutralize.
Right.
As opposed to pass or,
Yeah, because unless you're moving, there's very little that opens up. And you can see Kron trying to cross the elbow, cross the midline and control the shoulders, but it really didn't lead anywhere.
Yeah.
And just kind of bizarre. Damian Maia was in his corner.
Right. Yeah. Damian being the best
conversion of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu to MMA guy. Yeah.
Right.
Which I love going back to like his career, him always saying like, I don't want to hurt anybody. Yeah. I just want to get in and get out and then try not to hurt anybody. And I'm like, that's cool. Don't feel like that's really the right the right attitude for that sport, but that's a really cool perspective.
Very cool, especially when it's abnormal. Right. It's different.
And he stands out for sure.
Yeah. So it was really cool to see him in his corner, but I don't know if I saw a huge evolution, which you would think that happened over 3 to 4 years in his game. So the interesting thing is like, where does he go from there? what's going to happen to him in his MMA career, if he even really cares about it.
Yeah.
He seems so disconnected.
It's kind of like Ryan Hall process, right? Like Ryan Hall, same thing. Yeah. MMA, goes to Jiu Jitsu to MMA, just has the same tricks, right? Right. And then eventually, and I can't remember the guy's name that he just fought, in that last fight, but it was the same thing. He goes in, he does the Imanari roll, and then he kept doing it over and over and over again. Yeah. And then the guy just wouldn't engage with it, so his game was pretty much shut down.
Yeah, that was pretty disappointing match too.
Yeah.
That was a few years ago. Because you haven't seen...
Was it 2 years ago?
It was a while, because I know Ryan Hall has had a number of surgeries since
then.
Right,
he has, yeah, for sure.
Tuning up his body to get back in there. So.
Yeah.
Well, a couple things I wanted to do, since we're doing this every 2 weeks, and I wanted to give to the folks that are listening, which are obviously typically your older grapplers,
right.
Some resources or things that we like. So this is a surprise to you.
Yeah,
I didn't tell you.
You didn't tell me about this. Yeah.
So sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
So, and I figure
keeps it fresh, right?
Yeah. You're like, what the hell are you doing to me? So, I figured whether it be a product, whether it be Instagram, whether it be a YouTube person, something in social media, whether it's a supplement, it's not a couple to bring to the table.
Okay.
So the one I have from Instagram is a guy named Mason Survival.
Okay.
Fit at 59. I think this guy's from the Scottish Highlands.
Oh, okay.
So of course he's got that voice that's cool to listen to.
Right. Yeah.
There's some good background music. Basically, what he posts are just different exercises.
Oh, okay.
That are are good. They're different.
Yeah.
He talks about a lot of slow reps. He has a very spiritual connection to his lifting.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And he's kind of like, hey, 10 minutes of a hard workout is better than a whole day with nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
He's older. He's 59.
Yeah.
He's obviously incredibly fit. But if he can do this, and I love his gym because it's just outdoor with rusted plates and things that you may not have even thought about doing.
Just around the house kind of stuff.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The majority of his stuff is based around slow reps, but there's a lot of different exercises that he does or routines just to give yourself if you're kind of just looking for that.
Yeah.
Setting up your week on a Sunday, you can go through his Instagram, see a few exercises, say, hey, I'll do this on Monday, do this on Wednesday, and I'll do this one on Friday. Gotcha. Or whatever it may be. So I thought that was pretty cool.
No, that's pretty neat. Yeah.
Have you come across anybody?
So I don't use anybody like no. That's you're fine, because I mean, honestly, the answer is no. I don't really have a particular person I go to for that kind of stuff. I usually just let the algorithm figure it out for me. It's like, hey, you watched a lot of this, and then they kind of feed it back to me. If I go searching for something jiu-jitsu related, like I want to learn how to do this, usually it's Marcelo Garcia or Lachlan Giles. That's the two that I basically, if I want to know how to do something, their game is the ones that I tend to emulate more, because I love the guillotine, and then of course wrists and ankles are what I consider to be my.
How did you kind of come about that? Because I think that's something that a lot of people have a difficult time doing. They kind of they search out a lot of different people, but they don't really know their game. How did you kind of get into knowing that?
So Marcelo, the guillotine, that's what he's, I feel like, best known for, right?
So did you start knowing that you liked the guillotine first, or did you watch his stuff saying
guillotine first? Okay. So I find myself getting in that position a lot.
Right.
So then, once you start watching jiu-jitsu matches, ADCC, you're like, okay, this guy kind of plays a game consistently that looks like something I like. And then, once you dive deeper into it, Marcelo just kind of was the guy that I really like a lot of his stuff. And then Lachlan's the same thing. Lachlan explains stuff very similar to how you do it. It's very,
in depth,
and
cerebral.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. There you go. Not boring, but is
Well, I don't think it's for everybody.
It's not. It's definitely not. But
I definitely like to talk more than most when it comes to technique.
Yeah,
because I enjoy the technical aspect of the technique, like the details of the technique is the part that I get excited about. But it's hard to remember that sometimes teaching somebody or showing somebody everything teaches them nothing.
Yeah.
And not everybody enjoys that type of style of going through all the different grip details, the angle of the wrist, the alignment of the shoulders. But those are the things that I think are the magic behind jiu-jitsu. And it's very much how I teach medicine.
Okay.
So they kind of go in line with the same ways that I teach. I don't just say like, hey, here's a laryngoscope and here's a ET tube, and you open the person's mouth and put the tube down.
Right.
I get very technical in what equipment you use, why you use it, in what situation, and how it changes. Because it isn't just being able to do a procedure that makes you a good physician; it's doing a procedure under difficult situations.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing when you're as an athlete.
Yeah.
You know, it's like knowing the ins and outs, and then principles. Because I always say principles get you out of situations that you have no idea where you're at.
Yeah.
A technique is for a situation you're familiar with, right?
Right. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
But a principle is like when you don't know where you are in space and time, you can always apply these principles.
Yeah, that's your center. That's your,
right. And so that's
zero.
why I like to say, but you know, not everybody enjoys that type of teaching, but you can't tailor your teaching to every single person out there.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And that's why it's wonderful. We have so many different teachers.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. There's a bunch of different styles that we have. But
yeah. And people, and I don't take any offense if somebody gravitates to somebody else more than me. And,
right.
You know, some people are attracted to cerebral teachers. Other ones just want that aura of that amazing competitor that may not even really be able to teach all that well.
Sure. Yeah.
But if that's what they enjoy and that's what they're there for, then that's fantastic. That's great.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get that phenom who is an amazing competitor and just an incredible instructor.
Yeah, which that's the 1%, right?
It really is the 1%. It seriously is. And if you watch enough instructional videos, you'll kind of pick that up.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's some rare ones out there. Like I think Gordon Ryan's obviously he's an amazing competitor. Sure. His teachings are great.
Yeah, no.
I love his instructionals.
Yeah.
And I think those ones that we know of are popular because of that. Because people say, I don't know why I like this guy, but I like this guy. The one that you can get a difference of opinion is definitely Danaher.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. He's not easy to chew on.
No, but you know, it's what you can do, just as direction for you guys looking for resources. If you enjoy John Danaher, I would encourage you to look out Sean Williams.
Yeah.
Because Sean Williams, like what did Jackson said? He's like Danaher, but with more hair and more charismatic.
Yeah.
So Sean has this way of captivating folks with the way he teaches. The language that he uses is very precise. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make very many. We got Baxter outside the door crying because he wants to come in. He doesn't make any very many semantical errors when he's teaching.
Sure. Yeah.
So you don't get confused.
Yeah.
You know, he's very specific with the language that he uses, but is very captivating, and he keeps it down to a certain. He doesn't overteach, I would say.
That's a good way of
putting it. So with Danaher is almost like you don't even get to see the technique until you're like 3 volumes into his DVD, right?
Yeah.
Sean will kind of condense that in a way that it's much more palatable, and they both train together. Yeah. So, but Sean, I don't know how much he has on BJJ Fanatics. He's got
stuff on YouTube. I just watched a video of his the other day. It was like 8 or 9 minutes of him
his body
going
lock
over
video. He has a Body Lock the World video that's on his website, and it would be, I think you could just go to Sean Williams Jiu Jitsu. I have it on my phone, but my phone's recording right now.
Yeah, same.
And you can go to his paid site, and it's well worth the money.
Okay.
It's very user friendly. He has things done in chapters, and it's paid back in gold if you enjoy that type of system.
Right.
And he has both gi and no gi on there. So how did we get on that? Oh,
man,
styles of teaching.
Yeah, styles. Yeah.
So, anyways, getting back to this guy, Mason Survival. So Mason Survival, that's his Instagram. As far as clothing, I'm wearing. Do you see my?
Is this half sumo? Yeah.
Dude, they got the dopest shit out there, man. Their stuff is so cool.
I know. We got somebody else at the gym, Sonny. He's all
into me and Sonny are like the two biggest.
You guys are you're putting some change into their stock.
I don't care. Their stuff's great.
Yeah, no, I mean it looks cool for sure.
It is.
Yeah, I have no qualms with it.
halfsumo.com.
Yeah.
They have some like sweatpants and different just cool designs.
Yeah.
And they're not cheap. They're not.
No, they're not.
But then I didn't realize how much everything is going up because Amy took a look. I'm like, I don't know. I got to buy, because you got to remember when I buy a pair of sweatpants, it covers 3 people, me, Eli, and Jackson.
True. Yeah. We talked about that the other day.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get 3 for 1.
Yeah. So
that's
it works
the way
out.
I look at it.
Yeah.
Now I do have to put up with Eli coming in my bedroom every single morning and rifling through my drawers and then grabbing, the sweatpants he wants or the shirt or whatever. But she's like, no, that's about how much sweatpants cost now.
Yeah.
That's how much a t-shirt costs nowadays.
Which is nuts. It's absolutely no. I mean, everything, groceries, food, whatever.
Eggs.
Yeah.
Eggs, red meat.
Yeah.
Meat's going through the roof, and people aren't adjusting their spending habits.
No, not a bit. Why would they? Right?
When is this going to? Okay. Anyways, that's a whole nother subject. So
I know we're about to get off on a tangent, but anyway,
yeah.
that has nothing to do with this podcast.
Let me make sure we're good on the video. We're good.
Yeah.
So getting into what we were going to talk about this week, and that's kind of like just the basics of learning, right?
Oh, wait, hang on. You got to back up. Though. You talk about brands.
Oh yeah.
You got to throw out the Roll brand, Michael Johnson.
Oh man.
Yeah. I was wearing one of his shirts the other day, and he started coming to the 6 a.m. classes pretty consistently.
Oh, okay.
And he dropped me one of his shirts.
Oh,
totally unexpected. I was like, oh, nice. I got a bonus the Roll brand shirt. So
yeah,
check him out, the Roll brand.
And what is their website? It's I have it on my Instagram.
Yeah, I know, man.
A while back.
I would just look on Instagram, the Roll brand. Yeah. Okay. So that's all I can remember off of it.
Half of my t-shirts are his.
Yeah. I know. Most of the guys in the gym have several of his shirts.
Yeah,
so,
they got some good stuff. Yeah.
What's the guy's name? I think it's Part-Time Jiu Jitsu on Instagram. Have you seen that guy?
No.
He's got a bunch of like hilarious like skits, like Jiu Jitsu skits.
Okay.
Like how each belt warms up, and it's like the white belt's doing like a really crappy shrimp, and then the purple belt's like hiding. So he posted a video the other day, and he actually had one of the Roll brand shirts on.
No way.
And I was like, oh, that's super cool. And then of course,
is cool.
Michael had liked it or whatever, but because I was going to send it to him, I was like, everybody's already.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So yeah,
that's
it's cool.
Awesome.
He's getting some coverage out there. So
that's cool. I like it when, I think Jason Matherly has Upside Down. I think.
Oh yeah.
Is it Upside Down?
I think it's Upside Down. I could be wrong. I've only seen.
I try to support as many folks. Oh, and talking about supporting, about my seminar.
Yeah. The seminar next Saturday. Yep.
Okay.
$10 minimum donation.
Yeah, for the WeDefy Foundation.
Yeah, that's going to be
$10 minimum. It'll be 2 hours. We're going to do lasso guard. Next week, I'm doing all my YouTube shorts on lasso stuff.
Nice. Awesome.
And we have an interview with Josh Johnson, who's one of our blue belts, who's a disabled veteran, and kind of how jiu-jitsu's helped him. We'll go ahead and get that posted up.
Location.
It'll be the Gracie Baja and Mount Juliet, which I haven't been out there yet. I heard it's an amazing location. The facility, I guess, is huge.
Yeah.
It's actually Michael Johnson's brother, Kevin. He's a former police officer. I think he was a soldier. Was he in the Army?
I could not tell you.
He has some type of military connection, and it's from 11 till 1.
11 to 1. Mount Juliet, yeah, Gracie Baja, Mount Juliet.
So it'll be good.
Yeah.
And we'll do some more promos for that coming up.
Yep.
But getting into this week,
the meat of it,
learning. I have tried to do this podcast on my own.
Yeah.
Where it was just kind of a monologue.
Yeah.
And although a few people told me it was great, I just can't. I can't do it. So
you have to have.
I'll start off
somebody
with the
to stare at. Yeah.
Right. I'll start off with the monologue so you can hear it.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
As you want.
Okay.
So many times when you see high-level competitors at a seminar and the question opens up to the crowd, how do I learn faster? Isn't that one of the most common questions?
Very common. Very, very
Not
common.
like what and the other one was, have you ever felt like quitting and what'd you do?
Sure. Yeah.
2 very common questions.
I feel those happen at different times too. Like the first one's between white and blue. The closer you get to blue, I need to learn faster. How do I rank up faster?
Blue.
Then it's like, man, you ever plateau? Yeah, you ever feel like you're done with this?
It's funny. You can always have these predictable questions, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I have these predictable questions when I'm training, medical students. We're going to have residents here pretty soon, but they're always the same question. You can always predict those questions, and so you always have for teaching.
Yeah,
the 2 questions: how do I break the closed guard, and how do I get out of side control? It's just like there's certain questions you're ready to rock and roll. And I'm time and time again when these seminars open questions, it's invariably it is how do I get better faster?
Sure.
And I understand where people are coming from with that question, but I think it's the wrong question. They don't even know how to learn.
That's
and I wish you could track the people that ask that and say, are you even doing the basics? And so the question comes down to what are the basics?
Right.
And since a majority of our listeners are older, or people that have either kids or they have grandkids, I'll tell you the approach that I have when it comes to basic learning is exactly what I've told my kids from the very. It's the same. And we're talking basics. If you follow these 3 rules, they don't guarantee you an A, but they definitely guarantee you a B.
Yeah.
And these are the same rules. Maybe once in a while, see if it's a class you're struggling with. Sure. But if you just follow these rules, they're very, very simple rules. They're 3. And the same ones I've told my kids ever since I had Jackson starting, and it has not failed him or any of my other 2. Show up. You have to be there.
That's number 1 for sure.
Right. You have to be there. If you're not there, then no, you're not going to do well. And you have to be there on time. So it means you have to be there the whole class. The first to show, the last to go. You have to be there for the class.
I'm going to interject right there. Being on time. That's something I've struggled with for sure. And Professor Heggie put it really good one time. He wanted a meeting. It was myself, Michael Wu. I don't know if anybody else was required to be there. You want to check that audio real quick just to make sure that we're good. But so Professor, he had asked us, we'll just say he asked us to be there at 6 o'clock for a meeting. Okay. 6 o'clock rolls around. Let's say 5:59 rolls around. I show up. I'm there. Right. Michael was there. Maybe he was running behind a minute or 2. Professor was like, all right, cool. Meeting's over. I was like, what? He's like, I asked you guys to be here at 6. I was like, well, I was here at 5:59. Mike's like, I was here at 6:01. Sure, Michael was late, whatever. Can't really argue that. But in Professor's mind, I should have been there at 5:45 for a 6 o'clock meeting. He's like, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. When he said that,
being late's unacceptable.
And being late's unacceptable. Yeah. And when he said that, I said, okay, we're now on the same page with what you expect out of that. That's not everybody's expectation. For me personally, if I say 6 o'clock, if you're here by 6, then you're on time for me. Right. But when he said that, I was like, okay, this is definitely not the way I operate. Not that his way or my way is right or wrong, but I definitely could see how his way is maybe a little bit better to think about it. But I'm also a procrastinator by nature. So
being on time is an accomplishment.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same. And it's funny, these rules. So that is something I say. These are the same things I say to my kids. They're the same things I say to students that rotate with me. The 3 rules.
Yeah.
And when I talk about showing up and being there, you have to show up to the shift.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I say. On time is late. It's just on time is late.
Yeah.
Early's on time.
And I got that. Once you said it, it's like, that really changes your perspective.
Yeah. But I set that expectation. I make it very easy for them. I say, you want to get A on the rotation. You want to do well.
Yeah.
This is how we do it. So showing up, you have to be there for class.
Yeah. Because
sometimes when I hear that question, how do I get better faster? Does that mean that you want to get better with it almost sounds like, how do I get this life hack?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's no hack. You have to show up to class. If you don't show up to class, it's not going to happen. The second thing is a little bit more of a wastebasket term. Show respect.
Yeah.
So it will just take it into the classroom, not jiu-jitsu for right now.
Sure.
So with the kids, Dad, what do you mean by show respect? Well, that means that you keep your mouth shut. Okay. Your eyes up, your ears open.
Yeah.
Okay. You ask questions when you have questions, but you don't interrupt the teacher. Even though you don't want to listen, you're going to listen out of respect. If you do all the things, and that means showing up on time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
staying to the end of class.
Same thing. Yep.
Anything that you think that means show respect, do that. You may not want to.
Yeah.
I remember how much it just burned me when I hear my teacher say, open your book to page. I don't know why that just triggered me when I was a kid.
It's funny that that's the phrase.
Oh.
Because you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So
you do.
But
it was like, show respect. Show respect.
Yeah.
Show respect. I'll show respect. Do what I need to do.
Sure.
I don't talk. I don't ask questions for the sake of hearing my voice. I'm letting the teacher run the class. I'm not being disruptive. I'm showing respect.
Yeah.
So how does that translate over to jiu-jitsu?
So that's kind of the funny thing you talk about, showing respect, not opening your mouth. I feel like in jiu-jitsu, it's a little bit of everybody's kind of scared to open their mouth sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that one I feel like is the easy one, right? Because you're in this environment, you're just like, I don't know what's right. I don't know which way's up.
Right.
That's the easy one. Showing up on time. I know there's several people, myself, that still can be included in that. That makes the error of class starts at 6, you show up at 6:05. Which, granted, it's also different when it's you got jobs. We're coming. This is
they're adults. You're not training to become like world champions. You're training because you enjoy training.
Yeah, but also, I mean, we're not consistently having the same person show up 15 minutes late to class, to skip warm-ups, or coming towards the end just to roll, or do the quote-unquote fun part. So I think we have a good group that doesn't do it on purpose, I guess we should say. But yeah, as far as like respect, I think the eye contact thing is a big thing too. I don't know if you necessarily mentioned that. You said eyes up, I guess, was your
always tell the kids before they get on the school bus.
Yeah, not doing this, not looking down.
Yeah, you keep your mouth shut, your eyes up, and your ears open.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Mouth shut, eyes up, ears open. Yeah. They know the mantra by now. Yeah. That's the mantra. And it doesn't have to be in that order.
Sure. Yeah. But it's a good mantra.
They know that. And, if you do that, you're essentially showing respect. I think like one of at least in the training hall, showing the respect is, people are sometimes afraid to talk, but sometimes they try to instruct a little too early.
I wasn't going that way, but since you opened that can of worms.
And the other thing is, you may have learned a technique a certain way before, and now it's being taught a different way. And instead of just absorbing the lesson and just practicing it the way it should be done, you're in this conflict in your mind. And you're like, well, I did it this way. I learned this way. How about this? And you're adding all these things in that are not allowing you to learn right now. They're just absolutely not allowing you. And so what I say is you should always question everything that you're taught. You should never accept it as the gospel.
Right.
But while you're in the room, you should keep your mind open, practice the technique as it's being taught. And then... lights off.
Hang on, sorry. 1 second. There we go.
All right.
Apparently that we're shooting some video for YouTube and trying out some new lighting systems, and apparently this thing is not on 24/7 like I thought it was. But hey, we're trying stuff new, so.
But then when you're outside of the training hall, then you question it. Then you see, how is it a part of my game? But when you're training it, you're never going to be able, if you're not showing that respect to what's being taught, that's not the time and place to question the technique.
Right.
Even at something that you're just like, whoa, this seems bizarre. And just do it. See what, you might learn something from it.
Yeah.
But if you don't give yourself even the chance to do that, or your mind is flooded with other ways of doing it, quote, better.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't think that's a really great way to train.
Yeah.
I'm not saying accept everything.
Sure.
But in that moment, give it the best shot that you can. And then if you're like, wow, that just isn't a part of what I do.
Yeah.
Then great. Okay. But make that assessment outside when you've actually given it a try.
Yeah. And I didn't know if we wanted to go down this road, because this is a big pet peeve for me.
Yeah, go down that road.
I was like, how much time we got left on this thing? But yeah, to add on to what you're saying, when, let's say I learn a move from Professor Heji, you teach the same move, and then maybe, Michael, he teaches a ton of classes. Michael learned the move from one of you guys, and then he teaches the move the next class. I can take a class from Michael. That's fine. I don't care what his belt rank is. He learned a piece. He may have a different view of it.
Right.
So the way I do it might end up being an amalgamation of all three of you. The way you taught it, I might take a piece from each one. But if Michael's teaching the move, I'm not going to go stop him and say, hey, Professor says do it this way. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Or if, let's say I'm drilling it with a partner, Michael's teaching it, I go drill it with whoever I'm working with. I can't go, oh yeah, so Michael does it this way, but it's completely wrong. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to disrespect him in his class by saying that. Now, if I thought it was dangerous, sure, then I'd speak up and be like, hey, man, are you sure you're good? I'd pull him off to the side or something like that. But I would never do that to you or Professor Heji. If that was the case, you outrank me. You should know better than me in that sense, unless it's glaringly obvious and you end up in a McDojo and some guy's showing you how to, the no-touch kill or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a different story, but in a legitimate gym.
And I don't mind if there's people I'm teaching with or my training partners that we do something, like I teach something and somebody comes off to the side and is like, hey, if you go to your right hip, you got this. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Hey, you want to show that? Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
always good
different,
about
right?
that.
Yeah,
But
that's
as far as being the
brainstorming.
student in the class,
Yeah.
I don't think that does anything. That's kind of one of those, we call it disrespectful, but what I'm saying is it's just not a good, it's, if you're worried about the basics of learning,
Yeah.
it's not helping you.
Yeah.
Just
You're off doing your
get
own
through
thing.
the technique, get it done, suck it up, absorb it. You might actually learn something if you allow yourself to.
Yeah.
I just find that people that start bringing in all these other things, that they don't keep their cup empty.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't allow themselves to even benefit from that particular class.
Yeah. I thought about it just as when I was coming up through like the blue belt stage of you get this false sense of, oh, I know what I'm doing, right?
No,
you get a little bit of that like, oh, I tapped that guy out with this, 5 times in a row. Yeah, because he has no clue how to defend it yet, right? Like, but you don't know that, coming into it. So I always try to think of, how many reps have I done in this move? Have I been working on? Did I do it for a week straight? Have I worked on this move for the last 2 years? How long do I have behind what I'm actually about to say to this person? Regardless if I was trying to teach a white belt to do it, if I was asking an upper belt about, hey, I did it this way and it seemed to work.
Right.
I really thought about before I opened my mouth, what do I actually know? Not the false sense of security if I tapped, the new guy that just showed up for his trial class, like, and it worked then. So that's something I just kind of say is to anybody that's kind of curious about when should I speak up or, put my 2 cents into a move, not ask questions, but like, if you're trying to quote unquote teach somebody, how much time have you really spent doing it?
Yeah.
And if you've done it the whole, if you've done it for a year solid, then maybe you kind of know something. But if you just worked on it last week, maybe kind of let the person teaching the class just do all the talking.
Yeah, because we do have some experience with people that had maybe just learned the technique, yet they're talking to their partner like they've done it for 20 years.
The last 10 years I've been doing this, it's at least once a month that I go, man, you're doing that thing. You're doing that thing.
You're doing it. And so that leads us, showing up on time.
Yep.
You got to show up. Got to pay respect.
Yep.
And the last one is the one I think that people do the least amount in jiu-jitsu, and that's do the homework.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're showing respect, that means you're doing the homework, you're doing it on time, and you're turning it in. Because think about it, in the classroom, if you do those 3 things, if you just show up, if you pay attention, you show respect, and you just get the homework done, turn it in on time, because that's part of showing respect.
Sure. Yeah.
You're guaranteed a B if you're average intelligence. You're guaranteed a C if it might be a subject that you're really struggling in.
Yeah.
But there's no way you're failing the class.
It's true.
If you do those 3 things. So again, we're not talking about how do I get an A faster than everybody. We're talking about just basic learning.
Yeah.
Okay. And if people say, well, I already do that. I bet you don't, because I bet you don't do the third. I bet you think you show respect. I think you think you empty your cup. I'm sure you're showing up for class, because most people excited about jiu-jitsu are.
Right. Yeah.
But the third, the doing the homework, I don't know. So what is the homework? Because it's really easy when you're taking a math class, right? Or you're taking a physics class. Or it gets harder as you get into college, because nobody's delineating what you need to turn in, or what. Sometimes it's not, you don't need to turn in anything.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to review the subject matter that you had gone through during the lecture. And nobody's asking for homework.
Yeah.
You got a test in 4 or 5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But you still need to do the homework. And I find it very similar to a college class. See, when you're in high school, they tell you exactly what to do. Here's the worksheet, turn it in.
Yeah, a lot of hand holding.
Right. And then you get to college, there's no hand holding.
Yeah.
Well, there's no hand holding in jiu-jitsu. Very rarely. The only ones I talk about homework is my competition kids class. I say, okay, go to the Facebook website. I want you to look at the 3 techniques that when you come back next Saturday, we need to have these down.
Yeah.
And so you give them homework.
Which is great that you supply those videos too, even for adults. You'll throw those in our group, and I know there's several people that do watch those.
I think it helps, because I know for me personally, and again, I keep taking this back to scholastics, that if I had an algebra class and I did not come home and review that material, I forgot that material.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I just don't have the type of brain that that really locks onto the information when you're in class from 8 in the, what was it? I think we started school a little bit after, we started early when I was in high school. It was 6:30, something like that. And then we got off at 2:30. That's a long time to be in a classroom sitting down.
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
by the third, fourth class, you don't have the ability, you're getting diminishing returns at that point.
Yeah, you're
getting
brain's foggy.
exposed to the information, but unless you go home and review it. And I found it exactly the same in Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
How many times have you had taught a class, and then you said to everybody, okay, do you remember what we did yesterday?
Oh man.
Or how many times have you, I've done this with the kids. And they know now. They'll go train somewhere, or they'll go to class at our gym or wherever it may be. Hey, what'd you guys do?
Yeah.
And you can see that look on their face.
Deer in the headlights.
What did we do?
Yeah. I literally asked my daughter the other day. And granted, she's 6, but dropped her off to go to class. I went and ran an errand, came back, picked her up. How was class? That was good. What'd you do? I forgot. I mean, we literally just got in the car, walked out the door. Yeah. How did you forget? She goes, well, I remember the obstacle course. I was like, well, of course you remember that. She's like, well, it wasn't the fun kind. Like, they made us do this and this and this. I'm like, okay, so, but what about jiu-jitsu? What move did you learn? She goes, I can't remember.
Yeah. And
that's fair. All right, I'm just going to back off.
Perfectly natural. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's how most of us are. Yeah. We're going over Kimura stuff for the entire month. And last night I was like, okay, guys, T Kimura, remember this? And you just see the look.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, y'all don't. Some people watched the video. Some people didn't.
Right.
But that's a part of the homework portion that if you're just looking just to improve, you have to do the homework. So do you have an approach? Like, did you do it that way? I mean, was that kind of how you... I was lucky because I've always had training partners that live close, people that were excited to work out.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I was not that lucky. So when I started at Murfreesboro, GB Murfreesboro, I had my little GoPro, and then we would set it up, and then I would record all the classes. Okay. So Professor Mike was cool with that, and we even talked about putting up like a little database for, before the GB thing that we have now was even a thing.
Right.
I'd set up like in a little website for you to kind of log in and look at the videos, and we didn't get super far with it, but I still have most of those videos backlogged, and sometimes I'll go and look and be like, oh, that's funny. Yeah. I do that way better now. So, yeah, because of course I was a white belt and I was super excited about jiu-jitsu, and, you see YouTube videos, and granted, this was a decade ago. So the videos that were on YouTube still, there wasn't as many as there are now. I mean, there was a lot, don't get me wrong, but I mean, now everybody and their mom's got look at us, we're doing a podcast on it. everybody's got
I post something once a day.
Yeah. So, I recorded that, and that's kind of how I got better is, excuse me, I'm super hands-on with stuff. Like as soon as we get into class, and I get my hands on somebody, things make complete sense. But I'll watch the heck out of YouTube videos on a particular subject, and then I don't have anybody to train it with. I got my 2 kids.
Right.
So it's but they only can do so much. And then my wife, we're in and out, and we're not really doing jiu-jitsu when we're together. So not that she won't, but you kind of pick and choose what you're going to do every time. So yeah, really, I don't, until I get in there, like that's the beauty. You asked me about the 6 a.m., what I like about that. And I said the freedom. That's what I meant by the freedom is when I come in, okay, all right, Brandon, come here. We do this. And I tried that for like 2 or 3 weeks. I would teach one move that I wasn't too great at or familiar with. It's just things that I wanted to try. Yeah. And then I would teach a move that like, I know for sure this is how you do this. So
my because I have more time to do those things, I make a deal with, I typically say, if I'm showing you this, if I don't really know it that well, like the buggy choke, like I can't do a buggy choke, but I wanted people to be aware of what it was.
Right.
I made it very clear. I've never hit this, never came close, probably never will.
Right.
But I'll tell people the only time I'm going to show you something is if I've been successful with this technique on my own, training outside. Or I typically don't train super hard with the guys that are at our gym, because I'm teaching. I just feel like I can't train and teach.
It's 2 different things.
It's 2 different things. I would love to, and sometimes I do, but for the most part, when I'm there to teach, I'm there to teach. So my time to train is my time to train, whether it's at my garage or another location, or maybe it's open mat or whatever it may be.
Sure.
And I'll let them know, okay, guys, it's time. I did it. We hit this. A friend of mine, Tim Friedman, he owns 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu in Nashville.
Yeah.
And he had showed a series technique. And I just told him, I'm like, dude, this is the solution to this problem I've been having. Thank you. Hit it twice at his gym, and then train the next day and hit it twice at this other gym with a gi on. Because
nice.
He kind of showed, okay, this is how I do it, no gi, but this is how you do it gi.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweet.
That's
so
awesome.
right away next week, I was ready to train it. I was ready to show it. We went to a seminar with Leo Vieira, and he showed an amazing concept on passing De La Hiva.
Okay.
But I haven't done it successfully yet, so I'm not going to show it until I start to get it down.
Sure.
But I have more
fair.
time.
Yeah.
I have a lot more time to do that because I have my kids here.
Yeah.
That every time they see something new, they're like, "Oh, Dad, come here for a second." To the point where I'm like, "Oh God, man, can you just leave me alone?" So I'm lucky enough where I have that to kind of work with them.
Yeah.
On all of that. But yeah, coming home and being able to do the techniques that you learned in class, or at least setting up a time with a training partner, or reviewing what you did, that's kind of like that homework.
Yeah, no doubt.
That I think that you have to do, because if you don't do that, oh man, it's like, why do you remember certain techniques over others?
Yeah, and that's a good question.
And why at the end of the year do you not have, if you ask, what did you learn this year? Think about how many techniques that you've learned throughout the year and how many do you retain.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the homework that you're dedicating outside of class.
Yeah.
If that's your goal.
Right. Yeah. If you want to get better.
If you want to get better, just baseline better.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, are you still going to get better? Sure. Are you going to accelerate the way that is going to be the foundation for the next step, which would be accelerated learning? No.
Right.
If you're not doing those three things, you can do whatever life hacks you want to do.
Yeah.
You can do whatever fancy suggestion that somebody gives you that's a higher level competitor. It's not going to work. Right. None of them are going to work if you're not doing those three things.
Yeah, that's the foundation.
And I think there are people that are doing those three things. They just probably haven't thought about it in their mind as laid out as simple as show up, show respect, and do your homework.
Right.
Although I would argue again, that third one, do the homework. So in addition to that, accelerated learning, getting people to learn faster, you can take each one of those aspects, the show up, pay respect, and do the homework, and you can design them in such a way that creates accelerated learning. And that's kind of my approach.
I got you. Yeah.
So showing up, what I always say, showing up with intent. So that's the whole next level. That's the next level, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Because it's hard to show up intent until you're at least, what would you say, what level?
Oh, I'd say purple belt for sure.
Okay.
I feel like the intent is just to soak up as much information until you get there.
Right.
So I don't know if I've given it on this podcast, but I've given the analogy of just kind of like you're showing up to the buffet kind of thing through the belts, right? You walk into a buffet as a white belt and you're just like, there's just so much. There's so much stuff out there, and you're just looking at everything.
I want to go to a fucking buffet right now.
Yeah. So you're just looking around. You're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. As a blue belt, you're like, okay, I tried everything, right? As a white belt, you kind of got a little taste, a little sample of everything, right? And then as a blue belt, you're like, all right, I'm gonna take a little bit from this plate, that plate. Like, you still don't know what the ingredients are to any of it, but you're just like, I like the way that works.
I am strangely hungry for Brazilian barbecue right now, or Brazilian steakhouse right now with the buffet and salad. And...
Yeah. I mean, it's almost lunchtime. And then as you get to a purple belt, then you really know, like, okay, this, I don't want that on my plate at all. Like, you just did not like that particular move or whatever. Now, I'm not saying you can't learn it, you can't be good at it later, but I feel like from an intent standpoint, for me, when I got to purple, I was like, these are the things that I really want to work on for me personally. I want to know everything. I want my book to be, thick as far as what my knowledge of this sport is. Right. But I want these 10 moves to be mine. I want somebody to go, hey, did you roll with Anthony? Yeah, he hit this, this, and this like fluidly. The other things maybe not so great, that's fine. And then as I've gotten into my brown belt, I really honed in on that and said, like, here's 3 things that I feel like if I had to, I don't brag, but if somebody's like, brag on yourself, what do you like? I like this, this, and this. Yeah, these are the 3 things like I'm solid at. And then the rest of it, maybe I'm good at some other stuff. Maybe not. Depends on who you ask, right? Yeah. But then my goal is to be when I get to black belt, it starts all back over. Now I have a fundamental understanding a true fundamental understanding of everything, now I'm back to, and I really don't know what I'm doing again. Like,
Right.
how many
Right.
of these things do I really know the little pieces to that I've been showing everybody?
Mm-hmm.
There's 5 more pieces behind that I didn't even really think about to this
Right.
point. And that's been my thought process through the journey.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that I think that's one aspect of intent. I typically when I'm driving to class with the boys, I'll say like, okay, so what is the intent today? Like, what's the intent of class right now?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to red line tonight?
Right. Yeah.
Are you going to work on defense? Are you going to try to get a certain number of submissions? Like, where are we in our game, and what do we need to do?
Yeah.
And I usually say no more than 2 red line nights a week.
That makes sense.
So
Yeah.
you're
You
not
don't
going
want
to
to
red
gas
line it
out
more than
every
two
night.
two times
Yeah.
a week. You're never going to repeat an intent more than twice a week.
Yeah.
So if your intent was, I'm just going to get some submissions tonight.
Yeah.
That's my goal. My goal is going to be, let's get some submissions. Okay, great. What was your goal? Was that the same one? Yeah, it was. What about time? Yeah. No. You're not allowed to now. We got to change that intent up because we need to. And sometimes when they go, I don't know, I'm like, well, what do you need to work on? Are you, well, I just feel like my game isn't growing. Okay, so we got to ask why. Why is your game not growing? Oh, come sticking to the same things. Okay, good. Yeah. Tonight means you're putting yourself in bad positions.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's our way of dealing with that. Okay, so the intent tonight, you're going to put yourself in bad positions. I'm going to see you work out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we're going with this. And so having that idea, but you're right. You don't. I think between white and blue, the intent should just come in and just come, just get your ass to class.
Yeah,
just stick to class. Just stick to class and get to know the language, because I don't think you really know what you're in. The idea of intent is to help foster growth. And to foster growth, you have to see, where am I weak at certain times? And hopefully you have a good instructor through white and blue, and they're teaching you they're giving you the correct intent.
Yeah.
That's going to allow your game to grow.
Yeah.
And we can get into a whole different talk about what should the intent be at white and blue. I'm a big believer it should be just submission, defense, and defense from pinning positions.
Yeah.
Because if you feel comfortable getting out of any situation, it allows you to blossom your game later on in your career.
So I'll throw a curveball into. So what you're talking about is what I feel like I would consider like the fine-tuning intent.
Yes.
Like what I spoke about was just my overall intent as to my journey. You're talking about your daily intent, and my
as
daily
you're driving
intent,
the class, maybe.
Yeah, and so my daily intent is actually somewhat dictated by my mental health.
Oh.
So for me, there's some days where, and you kind of would maybe think it's the opposite, but if I'm not having a great mental health day, you would think I'd want to go in and just like be aggressive and smash everybody. And for me, it's like, how long can I survive? Like, because jiu-jitsu is my therapy. Right. So how long can I let this white belt, blue belt, whatever it is, give me his best attacks, and then me not go for the intent of submitting, but work on my defense and just go, how good can I be today and not get submitted by somebody? Right. And then for me, that's like, okay, cool, I survived today. So when I walk out, I'm in a way better mood. Because I'm like, what they just threw at me, that was probably their best that they've got today. I survived that. I'm cool. I'm fine. So that's kind of how I dictate my daily intent. Is how do I feel? If I'm in a really good mood.
Which is more in line with your goals. If your goal isn't how do I get better faster, it's just how do I effectively use this for therapy?
Yeah.
How do I effectively use this to help my life?
Yeah, and that's usually what I use jiu-jitsu for. I'm not going to be a world medalist. I hung that up a long time ago. Now, that doesn't mean I'm done competing. Right. But like, that's not my goal. My goal is come in, be a better person, have better mental health, and just enjoy the sport for what it is. Right. So when I go in, it's like those are the things that I hit. And it's like if I'm in a really good mood, so then that's when I can work on like my A game, as far as I know I'm not going to hurt somebody.
Sure.
Because I feel like if I'm in a not so great mood, that's when you're not as on point with taking care of your partner or yourself. You tend to maybe mentally let some things slip of your checkpoints of like, don't crank this or don't do that. So if I'm in a terrible mood, you'll never see me trying to go for, arm bars or just slapping stuff on wrist locks, because I'm not as fluid with how I'm going to do stuff.
So that brings up a question. And it's when I go through the system with people, it's usually a question that they bring to me a few weeks into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always based around, well, I have this intent. I know what I want to do. But when I get to class, I'm not dictating what's going on.
Mhm.
And what's going on is nothing in line with what I was like, for instance, guard. Like, okay, I'm going to go to class. I'm going to really work on my guard today.
Oh, and then we're just like doing barambolos the whole time.
Yeah, or
Like,
we're working on pinning positions or
sure.
passing or those type of things.
Yeah.
So without being disrespectful, because you're trying to follow the game plan of the class,
Mm-hmm.
how would you suggest somebody navigate that? Because
Yeah.
that's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it's a very solid
So we
question.
told you,
Yeah,
you know,
respect.
intent,
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, listen, my guard has been looking like crap. I'm going to go to class tonight. I'm going to really work on my guard.
Mhm.
And maybe you're not, the sparring session is what, 15, 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
And maybe you're doing specific training, so you're not working from that.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions? I mean, there may not be any grading. I have an answer for that, but
you do have an answer for it?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
okay. So I don't know. So I think about it from, okay, so we'll take Monday night's class that I taught. We were working, I basically at the end of class, instead of like 15 minutes of just slap, bump, roll, it was, okay, one person's going to be in side control.
More specific training.
Yeah, very specific, and you're going to pop up the knee on belly. You're going to work from that. And then I let them change positions so that we weren't working on the same thing for the whole 15 minutes. So I'm trying to give everybody that chance to work on maybe their little bit of thing. But if that's not the opportunity that presents itself, which is up to your instructor on whether or not you get that time, I don't know, being in the student's position, it's hard for me to,
it's tough, right?
To sneak in working on guard if we're working on, the pinning position or whatnot. I mean, maybe the intent is trying to re-guard, to get to half guard or whatever it is, we're all going to find a way to work on what we want to work on. It's just a matter of, are you doing it blatantly? Hey man, we're working on arm bars right now. And then you see them throwing like triangles up left and right. It's like, that's not what we're doing, man. So
exactly.
You can't do that. But I'm sure there's a way to find out, can I get to my guard from this position or whatever. So yeah, I don't really know what the right answer to that is and what I would feel is respectful being a coach. And I see somebody over there doing that, and I'd be like, sometimes it's, you just let it slide, and sometimes you're like, hey, I need you to
I need you to stick with the program.
Yeah, because it throws everybody else off too. That's really, for me, that's why I care.
Yeah.
I don't really care if you come to class and you just want to work on flying arm bars all day. I really don't care what you want to work on. But that distracts the other 15 to 20 people that are on the mat. They're like, what's that guy doing over there? What's that move?
Right.
So now you're wasting everybody else's time, because now I have to either get us back to center, or now I've lost the whole class and now we're working on flying arm bars.
Yeah. So
what's your answer?
Yeah, my answer is there's always tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unless you are, and again, directing the subject matter to the majority of the listeners, older family people, there's always tomorrow. You're not here to win a world championship. Now, if you're in your own little mini camp, that's different.
That's totally different.
It's different. That means I'm sure you're going to do an hour of sparring after class.
Yeah.
So we're talking about basic accelerated improvement when you're doing the three, I shouldn't say basic accelerated. We're talking about accelerated learning when you're already doing the three basics, coming in with intent, and how do you in class now shape what you want when the class structure isn't what you necessarily were hoping. There's always tomorrow.
Yeah. Because the question I always get is, what if, right? I know you get it too.
Oh God, what if?
What if? So I usually go, I'll kind of sidebar sometimes, because I talk a lot during my classes, and I know I've before in the middle of the class been like, if I'm talking too much, tell me to shut up, because I know I can just keep going. So sometimes I'll show a move and I'll side trail off to the side on this thing and come back, and I'll go, by the way, that was a what if. We're not working on that today, but I was in a position to
I've heard you say that before.
So that was a what if. But we're not doing that. We're going back to this. So if you find yourself in the middle of the roll, you get in that position, you can look for that, but that's not the focus. I don't want you off on a tangent. But that's also to try and help, the guys that have been doing it, or girls that have been doing it for X amount of time. If I'm showing a day one jiu-jitsu move, they're probably going to be a little bored. Now, that doesn't mean they shouldn't work on it, because it's probably a fundamental that we're doing, and everybody needs fundamentals. But sometimes you want to add a little flair. If you've done 50 arm bars, 50 arm bars, and then, you might go into an omoplata, and then that's how you finish it, or whatever, you know. But at the end of the day, like you said, there's always tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow. And you hope that the training methods that the instructor has is helping that accelerated learning. I don't think doing reps for the sake of doing reps. I think of it as it's kind of a progressive thing. You got to do the reps in order to build the muscle memory, so you kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so your body's used to it. Then you need to apply that against resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've watched Jackson over his last 2 weeks, he's kind of employed this way of teaching, which I think is excellent. And it's part of that accelerated learning. He'll have you do the rep for so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And not so many times. We go for time. There's a reason why we do time.
Everybody's different, right? Is that your reason?
Everyone's different, right?
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of, as far as the accelerated learning process, as far as the teaching aspect of it,
mm-hmm.
is I want one of the partners to do the move for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Because you might be at a level that you can get 20 reps in.
Sure.
And then I might be at a level where I can only get 10 within a 2 to 3 minute period of time. Let's just say 2 and 2. You get 2 minutes, I get 2 minutes.
Sure.
So then we get the most out of that. If you do a rep, the worst I hate is you do a rep and I do a rep and you do a rep. Because what happens with that is, imagine how much time is wasted repositioning yourself.
Yeah. Unless it's a flow position where you can go back and forth, just hit a couple, 3, 4, 5, whatever you can do back and forth. And then now it's your turn.
Yeah. And if you have to do 5, then I do 5.
Mm-hmm.
That may not work out so great, because it might take you a full minute to do 5.
Yep.
And now I've done 1 or 2, and now it's time. It's like, oh. Now, from a teaching perspective, I can see how somebody would say, well, you're going to go home and practice. I showed you, go home and practice. But that's just not my deal. So I like to do that 2 and 2 or 3 and 3 or whatever it may be.
And real quick before I forget this, that also applies to warm-ups. I've told my classes recently, just because I'm counting to 20 on these triangles, I'd rather you give me 4 solid triangles of your hips in the air, making the triangle, as opposed to 20 crappy ones where you just basically lift your feet up and make a triangle. Like, that's not doing you any good.
I've been so anti-reps that I've even thought about changing some of my lifting routines to being timed rather than rep based.
Sure.
I haven't done that yet, but I can tell you most of my class has been time based rather than rep based.
Okay.
Sometimes with the kids, not so much, but I've been doing a lot more time based training than rep based training, specifically because of that reason.
Yeah.
The other reason, and there's been some decent research around this, most of it's bro science, but that when you concentrate on reps, when you're talking about, and this is why I haven't made the transition between this and lifting. So lifting is more of I'm not going to say there's no technique in lifting.
Sure. Man,
but
darkness again.
No, it's all right. I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that there's no technique within lifting, but lifting is a movement-based, very limited 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with multiple movements and you're concentrating on the number, you're concentrating on getting through with the reps. Okay, I'm at 5. I got 5 more to do. This is 6. And now you lost the concept of the technique itself.
Yeah.
But if you're going just for time, okay, you got 2 minutes to do as many triangles from from the T. We're going to do a T Kimura to a triangle series. Then you're really you're not thinking about the rep.
Yeah.
The time is going, and you're not, it's just a different mentality. There's some decent research along that as far as people's focus.
So we do that with our lifting. Like when Kira and I lift, which granted, I don't lift as much as I should. I really need to be better about that. I have the stuff at home, but whatever. I'm sure a lot of people listening are thinking the same thing. Yeah. But when we do it, it is for time. It's always for time. I never do for reps, just because, like you said, I don't want to focus on, all right, 10 reps. Oh, I got to 8. Can I get to 1 more? No. Now, I will say, when I'm dead tired at the end of the time, I'm like, man, if I got 15 seconds left, how much time do I have left? Now, that I do focus on the number.
Yeah, and if
I'm just listening for the beat, man, I just go to the beat.
And I think it depends on what you're working for. I haven't made a total determination on that, but I think it all depends on what you're lifting, how you're lifting, what are your goals with your lifting. And I haven't made that transition, but I definitely made that transition quite a bit with at least with complex movements. And I call Jiu Jitsu complex movements.
Sure.
Because it's not just one movement. It's not just one thing. It's a series of movements and series of adjustments. So we take it from there, from the muscle memory to light resistance. And I think what happens with light resistance, and we introduced this pretty early, that with the light resistance, and this is what he's been doing. I'm not going to say he's copycatting me, because I learned it from other people too.
Sure.
That we get light resistance, And the light, okay, guys, we're going to do 2 minutes, one partner on top, bottom person, light resistance. The person with the intent is going to win the situation, but we want some light resistance. We want some barriers put up. Don't just flow with them.
Yeah.
So it is not cooperative training.
Right.
It's not cooperative.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. And then we reconvene and we say, what happened?
Yeah.
What problems? I can't get my leg over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, we need to get more on our side. Look at the accelerated learning that just happened there.
Yeah.
Now, it would be better if the person figured that out on their own, because then I think it would be more ingrained in their mind.
Sure.
But you're giving them some, like, okay, now you've learned, you got to get more on your hip. Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect. And then we increase the intensity and you increase the resistance until we get to the sparring. Mm-hmm. So hopefully the person, your coach, is doing that type of accelerated learning program for you. And if not, you can do that on your own with your training partners when you're doing your homework.
Right.
So if you're getting one of those standard classes that are, we're going to do 2 techniques, then we're going to spar. Okay, let me take those 2 techniques and let me apply that same thing. I'm going to rep it for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to do light resistance today. Yeah. Great. Okay, let's go ahead and spar. Now we're going to do that again. We're going to rep it for a certain amount of time. Then we're going to go light resistance, heavier resistance. Okay, now we're going to spar. Next time we get together, now we're going to put it to another layer. We're just going to warm it up and we're going full resistance on that technique. Yep. And we're going to work out the chinks in the armor and really get through. People do this indirectly because they find a technique they like. Yeah. And then they spar and they find themselves in that situation a lot. But imagine if you could concentrate and get yourself to that position faster. That would be the accelerated learning.
Yeah. And you got to be a good partner to do that, right?
Well, you got to have somebody you trust, right?
Yeah. You can't, we always say, don't be a dead starfish. Right. You can't just lay out flat on the mat.
Right.
There's no resistance. I always think about it when I'm being the partner is first, if you're new to the move or just learning it, there's not really any resistance. I'm just giving you a rigid body to work with. I'm giving you frames, something to work around. Then once we start sparring it more, okay, now you're doing it too easy. Let me give you a little resistance. Okay, now you're slipping up. You're not getting it as smoothly. And it's hard to say what's 20% of your resistance.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. We don't have a volume switch.
Yeah, I say that, and I know it's stupid. I'm like, all right, 50%, and then we always laugh. It's like, what does that mean? I don't know, man. Just not 100.
Yeah, just not 100.
It's like your 50 might be really 90. Your 50 might be 20. It's just not 100. That's all I'm looking for. Yeah. So, but that's part of being a good partner is how easy is your partner getting this?
Right.
And you're stop them, but don't let them pass.
Yeah, and that is.
Man, we're running out of.
Yeah, we're running out of juice.
Yeah, hey guys, keep going.
So, and that's a big ask.
Yeah.
Of people that just don't have the experience to know how to adjust that volume switch. It's actually behind you.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
So that's a big ask for those people that don't have enough experience to really set a volume switch.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does for sure.
Okay. Let me see here what we're doing. Okay. So so there we have it. I mean, it's pretty simple. And we can do a whole other podcast on accelerated learning, but those are the basics of showing up, showing respect, doing the homework, and then little tiny points of accelerated learning within those 3 aspects. And that's kind of that's been my approach. That's been my approach with my kids.
Yeah.
That's my approach all the way around when we coach wrestling. It's show up on time, be the hardest working guy on the mat, which is the way to show respect.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then when you're outside, you got to do your training.
Yeah, you got to do something.
You got to do something. And the way I look at it now is, and again, it depends on your goals. I don't let one day go by that I don't do some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Or something geared towards jiu-jitsu.
Towards it, right, yeah.
I try to make sure every day I go out in the garage, I'm on the mat for at least 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. And whether that's movement drills, whether that's going over a technique, whether that's actually rolling, if you do that, you're going to find, and that's the answer that I hear from most high level guys when they're out, when the guys in the crowd is like, hey, how do I become a world champion in 3 days?
Yeah.
They say consistency.
Yeah. You have to be consistent. Just like anything. I mean,
yeah. And it's such a simple thing, but if you listen to the highest level guys, they don't typically take a day off. And I used to say you need to have rest days. And I think you do need rest days, but that doesn't mean you need away days.
Sure.
A rest day can just be, and again, this isn't everybody's goal.
Right.
But a rest day is sometimes sitting down watching film or sitting down just kind of like, I was having a problem with this technique. Hey, Jackson, come on over here.
Yeah.
Let me see this. or it doesn't mean that. I think we get rest days and red line days mixed up. Not every practice needs to be a red line.
No, definitely not.
But some people feel that it does. And I think even at the highest levels, it doesn't need to be a red line day. At least when I was fighting professionally, and of course that's striking. You can't do striking red line every day.
No, you definitely cannot. That's
it's just your body tears down too fast. And for us older guys, you can't red line every day.
Yeah.
Unless you're just some type of freak of nature.
Yeah, I can't see a time that, even not being where I'm at now, where I was just like trying to hit it hard and heavy. As a white belt, I was in the gym 5 days a week. I still wasn't hard and heavy every single day that I was in there. Right. There was definitely days where I'm just, like you said earlier, am I working on the guard today? What am I doing? Even though I didn't know what was going on, like I knew there was days where I was like, I'm not trying to like kill myself. I'm not trying to be my own enemy today. And I feel like if you have, like you said, you keep it to 2. If you have 4 or 5 red line days, like you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that's on point. So, with that, I think we're pretty much closed up. You got anything else to add to all those things?
Really, just like the concept. When you said we were going to talk about like concepts of learning, my mind went straight to, I didn't like the idea of doing 10 reps of an arm bar, right? That class is boring to me, and it's still boring to me. If I show up at a gym and it's like, okay, we're going to do 300 reps of triangles today, and that's our class, Now, are you going to be really good at a triangle from that? Maybe, if that's the way you learn. And, for most people, reps aren't going to hurt, right?
No.
But
I dedicate certain time to reps.
Sure,
like we'll have one of those training days at my house where it's okay, all we're doing is 300 triangles, and then we're going to do it against resistance, and then we're just doing triangles for like an hour.
And that's just a part of your training. It's
right. That's a part of my training. That's my class training. That's not my class training.
Exactly. And I like what people say is conceptual jujitsu, as to, all right, now I'm working on, I'm focusing on leverage. What is the purpose of this move? Why am I using a double lever, to try and get into my ankle lock? And then focusing on that particular concept of this particular move. Okay. And that's where my headspace is not necessarily like repping getting that done, but like, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of being here?
Right.
And I think that kind of encapsulates everything that you've been saying.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, it's almost like, maybe I could phrase this the right way. It's the fact that you have to do movement, and you have to do the movement over a number of times, which we think of it as repetition.
Right.
But it's, what flavor of repetition are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
There are flavorless repetitions.
Yeah.
And there's ones that taste bad, but they're really good for you.
Sure. Yeah.
and there's it's a spectrum, right? Yeah. It's a spectrum of movements, and how do you do those movements in a way that captivates people, that accelerates their learning, and it is the most efficient use of their time. And so I think what you're saying there with the conceptual, why and when and how, and working through that cerebral process of the reps, you may only get, it's almost like we were talking about the guy Mason Survival, the Instagram guy.
The Instagram guy. Yeah.
How much weight he puts into slow reps, of how much and I think when you're in that conceptual repetition, you can spend 20 minutes working something, and you're going to get I don't know if you're going to get more, but you're definitely going to get a different aspect out of what you're doing.
For sure.
So we should come up with a list of different types of reps.
Oh, we could. We definitely could. We could make a nice little list, because I have my own thoughts on that. So
yeah.
But I will say the last thing is cheat code. Everybody has a cheat code. There's no
what do you mean by cheat code?
There's no cheat codes in jiu-jitsu or life or whatever, but that's the only term I can come up with for this is, if you want to get better faster, the tip in my brain that I'm trying to now do more of is your combos in your brain, which I've always kind of done this, but now I understand more. So it's a little bit easier to kind of put it all together. But the earlier you start thinking about combos, okay, if I'm in side control and I can go to knee on belly, and then if he turns this way, I can go S mount, I can go arm bar, then I can go omoplata.
Your series. Okay.
That whole series, that's how you get better faster. Not just, I'm really good at arm bars. What if he turns away? The what ifs. Like, where are you branching?
Every single permutation that can happen from that position, address that.
Yeah.
And try to come up with a game plan.
That's how you get better faster.
Yeah.
Outside of the things, your show up and respect and all that.
Well, that's a part of that middle, that train, or the homework.
The homework. That's the homework part, right?
Right.
Yeah, that is
taking something that resonates with you and then coming up with an answer for every permutation that comes in it. Because again, if you don't address it directly, it'll be addressed when you're training.
Yeah.
But that will take so long.
Yeah.
But if you do the repetition concept that I was discussing earlier with the resistance,
right,
then you start seeing those permutations from that position when you're in a cooperative training session with your partner.
Yeah.
And then you can start addressing them. And I think very similar to that is also knowing a position that you like to get to where you can set off like a home base. Like my home base is half guard or lasso.
Sure.
So if I can get myself to, if I can come up with every single way possible of getting to that position, I think it all started with over under passing.
Okay. That's your.
So I was like, I can't pass anybody's guard anyway except for over under. So how do I consistently get to the over under? Oh, half guard. That gets me to the over under.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do this. When they're mounted, I can get back to my half guard, which can get me to the over under.
Nice.
Oh, I can pull the half guard, which can get me to the over under. Ooh, who does half guard really well? Oh, Bernardo Faria. Oh, okay. Yeah. Man, I really like him. Yeah.
That's your guy.
So that growth, everything that we were talking about in the beginning, as far as locking onto somebody you like, and that was kind of like the accelerated learning process that I wish I would have kind of seen the roadmap to it. I kind of lived the roadmap and went, wow, that really worked.
Yeah.
Oh man, because that's what I do. I go to half guard and I have people sit up and grab my neck, and you choked me out from there millions of times because I had to learn how to position my neck. Oh shoot, I finally learned I can't do this till their back is flat.
Right. Yeah.
Now when I teach it, I'm like, okay guys, you got to chill here till the back is flat on the mat.
Yeah.
Because if not, I've learned that you're going to get choked from here.
Yeah.
And the leg positioning, how to pummel the legs out, and all the little tricks from other things that you bring into it. And that's the accelerated learning.
Yeah.
But man, how long does it take to get to the point where you can start applying that? And I think you said white to blue. And I think that's a very reasonable period of time to just get down the techniques. And then finally at purple, start asking yourself, what position do I need to learn the series from? Yeah. What resonates with me? What works well for me? What has been successful for me? And I can branch out from that.
Yeah. I did the same exact thing. It was the guillotine to the butterfly, and that's Marcelo Garcia right there. You know, and then it's like from there, there's so many options that I just started. You can ghost armbar from here. You can do this. You can do that, and just beautiful sweeps from the butterfly. And I just feel super comfortable there. And you know, you give people that false sense of, you know, they're on top, so they kind of let the guard down a little bit because now they're thinking they're in the dominant position. So I feel like butterfly is a little, you know, misleading in that position. At least for me, I feel really comfortable there. If I can get at least one butterfly hook in, I'm okay. You're in side control, then it's like, now I hate my life.
Yeah, and so that leaves up for white and blue, if their path to that eventual accelerated learning is just learning, what do they do for their homework? What do they do in their off time? I think they just watch film.
I would have to say, if we talk about it, especially not having a partner, because if you're white belt,
right?
You know,
of course, if you have a partner, practice the stuff that you learned in class, continue to work on that, and that special way that we talked about. You know, reps, time for reps, moderate resistance, and then learning to work through it. But if you don't have a partner, what do you do for homework when you're at the white and blue belt stage?
Yeah, I watched a lot of videos, man.
Yeah, I think the more video you watch, and the more language that you understand, and the more that you see things, and the more familiar you get with the terms. And just everything, I think it makes it that much easier to kind of get to that point where you say, oh, this is the game that I like.
Yeah. Pause that video. Look at that hand placement. Look at all the little aspects of in that position. What is that person doing right now? You know, that's what helped me learn, is not just, okay, so he just swept him and then he ended up, you know, putting his arms around his neck for a choke or whatever. It's like, no. He passed the hand to the opposite hip, you know, and because sometimes they don't call out all those little moves, you know, in a 5-minute YouTube video.
Yeah, it is beneficial to find somebody that will break down film. Sean Williams does it. Keenan Cornelius does it.
Keenan's great too, and Sean's great. You know, they're both awesome. But I do enjoy listening to both of them.
Has been doing some breakdown videos.
Yes, Lachlan's my absolute favorite. I would always go to him.
His breakdown videos are amazing.
Yeah. But again, really that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
For how he, you know, lays it all out. But I would imagine if they're listening to this podcast, generally they like the way you tell things. So I would recommend Lachlan Giles as another person that teaches in that same aspect.
Great breakdowns, man. Awesome breakdowns.
Yep.
Well, good. I think that's where we have it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And if your goal is that you just like showing up to class because you like camaraderie, you like to learn a little bit, you really don't care about, at the end of the day, winning in tournaments or accelerating or beating the guy that you're with, you just want to be there for therapy, and disregard the last 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe 1 hour and 10. Because for 5 minutes,
right. But I think that's something that most people like to kind of apply. And when you start to become passionate about jiu-jitsu, that's the one thing everybody wants.
Oh, without a doubt.
How do I get better faster? Well, just learn how to get good. Learn how to get a B, and then we'll learn how to get an A slowly by integrating different things.
No doubt.
All right, man. So until 2 weeks, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
We're going to try and stay on this.
Absolutely.
This
and then until then, May 20th at the Gracie Baja in Mount Juliet, 11 to 2, We Defy. Videos will be posted this week. Everything will be lasso based. Starting next week, I'm sorry. We still have to finish up with our armbar escape counter series for the rest of this week. And follow us at YouTube site is Old Dog BJJ, also on Instagram. And until then, keep training.